back on Born Before 64 with Jack Green, builder, developer, renovator of camp meeting, the auditorium, the gathering space, or the gathering, the auditorium, the great one. It's absolutely gorgeous. And we were privileged to film in there today. And I have to tell you, you've done an absolutely tremendous job. This town is probably one of the most gorgeous seaside towns I've ever been. This is really God's town, isn't it?
Well, we used to call it God's Square Mile, but now we've become a little bit less in your face about that. Right. But this was created by the Holiness movement that happened after the Civil War, and they were very much in trying to heal the country after the Civil War and all the trauma that the United States had gone through. So there was literally thousands of campgrounds that were spawned from here, which is Ocean Grove was kind of the mother of all the campgrounds. And they went across the country. And it was a tremendous religious revival that's not really spoken of much, but it was this holiness movement.
Right. This is kind of like being in Israel, but in the United States in a sense, religiously. Would you say that? In essence,
this for the holiness movement was the New Jerusalem. And they felt that this is the city that would come down from the heavens. And so we have the mountains that are back here, Mount Zion, Tabor. We have the well, Beersheba. So we're this little crazy New Jerusalem. And, so from that, this was a revolutionary type of experiment in a new type of a city. And there's a lot of great things here, like we have the flare effect. It's a gradular plan, and if you look at all the new urbanism that Elizabeth Plattner and Dwani, the planners, have gotten involved in, they use Ocean Grove as the model. And it goes back to 1869.
Right.
And so we create a gradular plan, and we want a community where people communicate with each other, so that the tension of the town is to make people walk. And
that's a great idea.
We have porches, so as a person who got involved in planning, urban planning, we started to look back at some of the things that had been done in a town like Ocean Grove. And we saw that a lot of the things that we did after World War II were a mistake.
Why would you say that?
Well, we created suburbs, there were many factors that created the life that destroyed the family community. You come up with the burbs, the suburbs.
Right.
You have cul-de-sacs that go nowhere. Now we invent air conditioning so people don't go out of these houses. Right. We bring in TV. We bring in the car. We bring in all these things that deteriorate the core of a community. So Ocean Grove goes back to the gradular plan, and a walking tension, so that people go out and they try to, understand each other. Even in old towns like Kearney, New Jersey, my grandparents grew up there, they didn't have crime on the streets. You had the mothers there that knew exactly what was going on. If anybody was messing around, they would make a phone call to the other person.
Now you only have, during the year-round, except when people come here in the summertime, 7,000 residents, basically?
Ocean Grove has 3 seasons. We have our summer season over 24,000.
Right.
You have to like the seasons. I'm not a Florida lover. I'm not either. I'm not going out of Florida and being in one season.
Right.
I love it. But if you love the shore down here, you have to love seasons on steroids. Because we go 24,000 people in the summer. We have the shoulder seasons where we're 10, 12,000. Now we go to the winter when people are moving back to Florida and everything, and we're down to 5,000, 7,000 people.
And that's what I like. I've lived in beach towns because we moved around with the military because of my husband's job. And so I lived in a lot of ocean cities or towns, and I kind of like it because in the wintertime, you're on the beach yourself. You can do things that you've never done before. And I love little towns. And when I drove into this town, I couldn't believe how precious it was. And, I love New Jersey. I adopted New Jersey as my state a long time ago. And it's coming back to New Jersey, which excited me so much to see. And I've never been to this part of Jersey before, and I work out of New York a lot, in Chicago. But this ocean, the ocean view, and then I hear you have lakes on either side. Is that true?
Well, we have two lakes on both sides.
Right.
But going back to the theory of the New Jerusalem, the lakes are part of the walls around the city.
Oh, I get it.
And so you have Fletcher and you have Wesley. Wesley being the mentor for Methodism,
Right.
Fletcher being his mentor. And the lakes are their hands in prayer around Ocean Grove.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And,
That's a gorgeous concept. I love it.
So all these concepts that they create, everything was thought out by the older
The
generations,
visionaries.
the visionaries.
Now let me ask you, you can't really, we talked a little bit, prior to the show, we talked a little bit about your leaseholds. They're not, you can't buy the land, you have to lease the land. Tell me about that, why?
And we're going to sector this land, and we're going to take some kind of ownership of it. But how can we own it? Because God owns it. So we have a dilemma. And so from that, the Jubilee theory comes out. And then that means that God owns the land. We're going to lease the land from God. 7 times 7, 49 years. God forgives the debt. And we move on for the next period.
Oh, I get it.
So in Ocean Grove, we have 99-year leases. But the camp meeting does own the land. And we have these perpetual leases, which are 99 years in duration. But now the banking and everything has looked at that as, okay, you own the land. If the taxes aren't paid, they're going against you. They're not going against the camp meeting. So it really is more
Of an ownership situation.
Right.
Now, has there been any new building here?
There is perpetually some new building. Myself, we did 20 new houses in the south of town.
Wow.
We just did a condo project with them in the county.
Now, if I wanted to come in and purchase under a leasehold, I wanted a property, what would they start at, basically?
The price range of the town is pretty wide. I mean, you can get properties in this town in the 200s.
That's normal.
That's pretty normal. You can pay $1.6 million.
Right. Same thing in Cincinnati. You can do the same thing. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what happened after the aftermath of Sandy. I see that you lost your boardwalk. I mean, there's pieces of your boardwalk that are still intact, and then you have a very large portion that needs to be redone. What has happened? Why has that not been restored?
I have to say that we're very humble and blessed in this town, that we were not devastated by Sandy. Again, by accident or by divine intervention.
Divine intervention, I think.
Our founding fathers didn't want to have mosquitoes. So they had looked at different sites up and down the Jersey Shore. They were going to go to Cape May, and they got bitten alive. So
Really?
they said, we're not buying this land. So then they started to look for land where there was
Right.
less mosquitoes.
Right.
Malaria and these different things were problems in those areas. So they picked Ocean Grove because it had very much of a lack of mosquitoes. And really, that's because we didn't have brackish water. We're a high elevation. We're 18 feet right where we're sitting above
Really?
sea level.
So that's the reason why you weren't destroyed.
So that's why we weren't destroyed.
So that area that got destroyed, that was only...
Now, we still had a once-in-a-lifetime event that created a tremendous surge. And that surge came through at 13 to 14 feet. So we had parts of our boardwalk that were destroyed. And, but there are all things that are replaceable. I mean, as far as human life and houses and everything, we had one section of the town that took on basement flooding. But we were
blessed.
We were very, very blessed.
Now, you haven't gotten any, can I ask this question? You haven't really received any federal money, have you? And is there a reason why?
After Katrina, the government rewrote the FEMA guidelines. And they made it much more restrictive for what they call private nonprofit to get funding.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Doesn't your boardwalk, the public use it?
we have been battling through this or discussing this through different levels. Everybody said they're very supportive. The rules weren't really written for an anomaly like Ocean Grove. It's an anomaly.
This is an historic place, though. This is really important.
But there's nothing like it. And so it's kind of like, okay, so now there's this town that's owned by this quasi-religious entity called Ocean Grove Camp Meeting Association.
Right. And nobody wants to...
It works perfect when you don't have a hurricane because actually, you know, our revenues from the beach all go into keeping up this infrastructure. The Camp Meeting doesn't take those revenues. The Camp Meeting leaves them on the beach.
Because they want everyone to enjoy this gorgeous.
So it's a beautiful thing for the community.
That's right.
And we are also our bulwark. We also, back in the day when I was young, we kept it biblical. So you could not drive a car. A car could not be seen here on the Sabbath. Now we changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday because we were Christian, but there were no cars in this town whatsoever. And so in the 1930s, they had a thing called the New Jersey Highway Act, and they were going to put a highway all up and down the Jersey Shore.
Oh no!
So the Camp Meeting came in, they built the North End Hotel, which she's gone now, but it was up there, right on the border of Asbury.
Okay.
And it was so expensive that the state never condemned the property to run the highway through here.
Wow,
so
you were lucky on that one, weren't you?
Lucky. So they came through and they said, all right, this boardwalk is your highway for the Jersey Shore. So we are the connecting point between Bradley and Asbury.
And on that note, we got to take a short break, and we'll be right back on Born Before 64. I can't thank you enough, Jack, for being on our show, Born Before 64. And I'm going to come back and see it, and I'm going to participate this weekend. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy day to do this.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Give that website out one more time, and your website.
Well, it's Ocean Grove Camp Meeting. I'm not sure of the website, but I'm sure we can get that too.
We can get that. And what's your website, Jack?
Well, I have a Jack Green Realty.
Okay, jackrealty.com.
Jack Green Realty.
And we'll be back next time on Born Before 64. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on Born Before 64 with Kathryn Raaker. For more information on our show, check out our website at www.bornbefore64.com.